Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Former Governor of Ogun State, Chief Olusegun Osoba, who is our first guest, will be 80 years on July the 15th. There has been quite an extensive build-up to that anniversary in the media, with major newspapers dedicating large volumes of print to celebrate a man who made his mark as a newspaper reporter, editor, and administrator. His biography, Battle Lines, Adventures in Journalism and Politics, will be launched next week as part of activities to mark that occasion. Chief Osoba also commands a political career during which he has been governor and now one of the key political figures in the southwest geopolitical zone of Nigeria. We will also take up His Excellency on his relationship with former President Olusegun Obasanjo and some key political leaders in the polity. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Good morning,
congratulations on the publication of Battle Lines.
Thank you very much.
Quite a well-produced book, and I've enjoyed reading it very much. But first, let's start. In the prologue to the book, you talked about the importance of biographies, about people who should tell their stories. Why is it important for us to have biographies? Because I know there are many people watching us who also, like you, believe in the idea of writing biographies.
It's unfortunate that in Nigeria we find ourselves where we are. I've had occasions to quarrel seriously with many of my friends. I'll start with General Gawan. I have on many occasions engaged General Gawan, whom I was very close to when he became head of state. We don't know the details of what went behind closed door at Aburi. Now, General Gawan is over 90. I know what I went through to write at the age of 70. It's not so easy. I've had occasion to quarrel with S.B. Awoni for a long time. S.B. Awoni, one of the super permanent secretary, had a room full of documents. And he was preparing to write. He died. We have had no chance to know details of the role he played with Sadana Sokoto. At the time that Gawan said Nigeria is not a country. The role he played to pull Nigeria back to be one. So many things that Chief S.B. Awoni was involved in, he didn't write. I've been urging another close friend, General Salami Abaka, is the midwife of the current democracy that we are enjoying. I'm urging him to write because I know that he virtually registered AD because we didn't qualify in terms of the conditions. And he did it because he knew that Southwest was the foundation of the situation then. M.K. Abiola, who paid the supreme price, was the major factor in everything that we were doing then. So many of my friends who have stories to tell, many of whom I know, Alhaji Jakonde is the most painful to me. Alhaji Jakonde had in his house today perhaps one of the best documents professionally. He was involved in founding Nigerian Union of Journalists. He was involved in the creation of Guild of Editors. He single-handedly founded the Newspaper Proprietors Association. He single-handedly invited International Press Institute to Nigeria. And I was the first to have a one-year course in the University of Lagos in 1965 with the efforts of Alhaji Jakonde. We are the pioneer of the mass communication department of UNILAG. It metamorphosed into Nigerian Institute of Journalism, which has been recognized now as a tertiary institution for journalism. It's unfortunate Alhaji Jakonde has not written his career as a journalist. He was managing director of New Nigeria for many years. He was the sole editorial writer. He was now that you have editorial board, he was the editorial board of Tribune. So many things that Alhaji Jakonde could write about. Only Alhaji Joseph wrote. That's why I have written now because it's unfortunate we don't read history anymore. History must be back. The contribution of MK Abiola in every aspect of life, business-wise, media-wise, political-wise, in terms of being philanthropic, all this now, they have to be documented as a lesson. I read history in school. I don't know why I should be reading the Tea Party. I was made to read the history of the United States, the Tea Party in Boston, and then the Declaration of Independence. I should read more about the history of MK Abiola, Awolowo, Azikiwe, founding fathers, Sadana of Sokoto, Tafawa Balewa, the founding fathers of Nigeria, and those who followed the military incursion into the Nigerian politics. All these things are historical facts, and that's what has led me to write my own book from my own perspective of where I was involved in.
We're glad that you did, sir. So can you tell us, because you're that rare Nigerian, you achieved excellence in journalism as the first Nigerian Nieman Fellow in Harvard University, to managing 3 successful, profitable major newspapers in Nigeria. You then segued into politics in the highest office, you're 2-time Ogun State governor, and remain relevant today. With your integrity intact, I'm saying this not from the perspective of flattery, but can you just tell us how that was possible in Nigeria and explore if it is still possible now with the sort of desperation, godfatherism, or the negative connotations that we associate with the political terrain today?
There's nothing new in Nigeria today that is different from what happened in my time. Godfatherism, I was accused of being the godson of Olai Joseph. That created problem in the daytime when he appointed me as editor of Daily Times. That's why I titled my book Battle Lines. The kind of intrigues that you have now have always been there. And I faced so many battle lines. They said I could not, I do not know my left from my right. And that led to major crisis in Daily Times because Olai Joseph appointed me as editor of Daily Times. And my late friend, S.B. Awoni, persuaded me. I refused to go to Ilorin. But then he used his administrative knowledge when Daily Times was taken over to now second me to Herald. I had the chance to prove myself. As you said, you seem to have gone into archives and read up my background. I made a success of the Herald. I'm one person who detests taking subvention from my publishers and owners. I made a success of Herald. Why? I went there not as managing director or general manager, but as a reporter. And what the breakthrough came when Dimka was caught. I was fortunate to be in Enugu, and Tinubu then was the Commissioner of Police in Enugu. He recognized me.
Kafaru
Tinubu. And Dokin said, Segun, you are here. So I entered into the room where Dimka, who had just been arrested, was being interrogated, and everything he said, you know, a good journalist was able to cram things in his head. I started writing story for almost 2 weeks of different aspects of Dimka, and that launched Herald into the consciousness of the world. And from there on, we became a challenge to Nigeria, and we made money, and I was able to run Herald. Now, I moved from there to sketch. Again, I got to sketch. The first major story was Sugaba. One young man, Sule Maitama, was Minister of Internal Affairs. Young man just took Sugaba physically and got him thrown across the border. A man who is the majority leader in the Borno State Assembly, you say is a non-Nigerian, is from Chad or Niger. We picked the story and turned it into a national issue. That again launched sketch into the consciousness, and we became a challenge to Daily Times in the whole of the Southwest and Nigeria in general. So I can go on telling you some stories that launched my newspapers, and that gave me the chance to prove myself that I did not earn the editorship of Daily Times through Elijah says godfatherism by my own God-given talent. And from there, I was invited to Daily Times. And I thank God I crowned my career with return to Daily Times, where I started from. And that time was dead. And I was able to turn it around. I was paying the shareholders dividend by the time I came back. And by the time I left in 1989, that time was a profitable newspaper. So I thank God that, as you said, I have the record of that journalist who had the distinction, reputation of having managed 3 major newspapers, not managed successfully. And we have other colleagues who have managed different newspapers, but they have different stories to tell. And then into politics, of course, I was elected twice. We were kicked out by Abacha on November 17, 1993, over the June 12 issue. 6 years after, I was re-elected. So I've had the opportunity of being governor 2 different times. Never was any of my election challenged in court.
So you've been deputy editor in Daily Times, later managing director, general manager Herald, general manager Sketch, governor, and all of that. Now political godfather in Ogun State. But in your book, you introduced yourself as a reporter. And then at the end of the book, you also said, you know, you are happy to be a reporter. Why is it so important to be a reporter? Why is being just a reporter more important than being godfather, being governor, being general manager, managing director, and everything?
Well, it's my passion. I thank God, reporting is we are the infantry of journalism. Those of you who are writers, we count you as the medical, educational. So there you can write. Comment is free. You can say anything you like. You can use any language. But reporting is technical. I was trained that when I started my journalism career, that a sentence must not be more than 18 words. That's why I wrote a book now, just as I was trained, a book that the market woman can read, a book that
we'll go on break, and then you'll continue with this commentary on reporting. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Still with us in the studio is former Governor of Ogun State, Chief Olusegun Osoba, a journalist and a politician and a distinguished administrator. Sir, before we went on break, you were talking about the reporters being the infantry of journalism. And I hope that, you know, along the line, you also, in telling us about the significance of the reporter, comment on how in 1964, you were the only journalist in the whole of Lagos who had a telephone at home. And then that famous episode about how you discovered the corpses of Tafawa Balewa and Okotie-Eboh after the 1966 coup.
Because in journalism, you must be mobile, and you must have communication. There are 2 ingredients to successful journalism. I had a scooter. I was mobile. I was mobile. 1444 in LA, and I had the telephone. I was able to communicate with everyone, but at that time, the total number of telephones in Lagos, I don't think there are more than 300 telephone lines. Like I said, as a reporter, it exposes you. I related with Tafawa Balewa in Parliament, Okotie-Eboh, I don't know Gusanya. I related with Zikiwe, covering Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. I related with Papa Awolowo, covering Papa Awolowo as opposition leader in Parliament. I related with Sadana of Sokoto. See, reporting gives you opportunities, if you harness it very well, to meet great people. And you don't lose your head. And I say I'm a reporter because till today, I don't sleep before 2. I'm still always, that nose for news is still there. And Professor Akifele once said there will be communication in heaven. So I told him that I will be a journalist even in heaven. When I get to heaven, God will be sending messages around to all of us. And I will still be reporting. There will be no medical doctor because no sickness, no lawyer, no court. But I will be a reporter, and I will be a reporter in heaven.
The heavenly times. In your book, you referred to a 2002 meeting that you had with former President, as he then was, Olusegun Obasanjo, and several other people. And the agenda of that meeting was restructuring, fiscal federalism, a merit system, and a quota system alongside federal character to do with public sector, positions. Yet here we are in 2019, still grappling with these same issues, and nothing has been done. Clearly, an opportunity was missed. But what would you say to the current administration as President Buhari begins his second term to deal with this most fundamental of issues?
In my book, I was able to still put something in to the formation of APC. In our manifesto, we promised true federalism. We promised devolution. I even use the word restructuring here. And the APC set up El Rufai's committee. The El Rufai committee came to us at the APC caucus, which is the highest body for now for the APC, where we considered the El Rufai report. I expect that this second time, we as APC, we will have to get our president to at least send the El Rufai report to Parliament, National Assembly, and let them start considering our own vision and recommendation as a party for the restructuring of this country. I believe we need to do something urgently. Otherwise, there no two way to it. We may have to go USSR and decide to negotiate our existence, our coming together. Ukraine is on its own now. A commander now is president. And when you get to Ukraine, you think as if they've been practicing democracy all their lives. Whereas in the days of USSR, it was communism. Russia is the only country now, no more USSR. Czechoslovakia, the Czechs and Slovaks went their way peacefully. I don't want the kind of thing that happened under the concussion put together by Marshal Tito in Yugoslavia, where killings was out, the Herzegovina and all others went their ways. No. In Nigeria, something must happen. It cannot go on the way we are going.
Absolutely.
So in chapter 4 of your book, you talked about daily times. Good times, bad times are the daily times. And all through the book, daily times, understandably, featured prominently. But I felt that although there was no bitterness, that you were using all those references to daily times, particularly to expose certain persons. You seem not to have forgiven Mr. Areyo Oyebola, for example, who was editor and who was removed, and you succeeded him. And then there was this section on Prince Tony Momo, who was, who played a role in making sure you were removed as a managing director of Daily Times. But do you want to talk more about the good times? Because I saw the battle lines, I saw the bad times played up more prominently.
Well, you see, good news is no news. So I won't talk about the good times, but it's no news. The bad times is something that is unusual. The news I'm a reporter. You see, Oyebola and I disagree. And the one that I feel insulted about, and I keep feeling bad about it, is his claim that I didn't have a degree. It's most insulting. I went to University of Lagos. I graduated diploma in journalism as far back as 1965. I went to United Kingdom. Part of my study was in Oxford University, where I did another diploma sponsored by Commonwealth Press Union in 1967. By 1970, I was in Bloomington, Indiana University, one of the best mass communication universities in the US. You will know. I did a year in Bloomington, Indiana. And on top of it, I had the chance to do postgraduate in Harvard, Ivy League University, under Professor Joseph Nye, foremost political scientist in the world. He supervised my program. I have all these in pictures.
And you were at Fleet Street.
And then for a man like Oyebola to say, to be berating me, how do you forgive such a person? combination of all that I did, is it not more than his BSc economics that he claims? And in any case, I have since left the Times. I've gone around to prove what I am as a journalist. Let him prove. That's my argument with him. How can an editor close down his newspaper on the day of a coup? Because he lacked experience. And he will never admit that he is not a journalist. He was a teacher in Olivet High, Baptist Olivet High. And all he wrote was one pamphlet on economy. And I just brought him in. So a man who has no law, during the Civil War, you will see in my book, I was in military uniform, I covered the war. During the Civil War, we were sleeping in the office. The day Nixon resigned, we didn't have CNN. We had to monitor Nixon's resignation. Professor Osoba and I voluntarily slept in the office, monitor Nixon's resignation on the Voice of America by the lagoon. And 9 o'clock in America, with 6 hours difference, is about 3 o'clock Nigerian time. A resignation, Professor Osoba and I stayed back of our voice as reporter to report it in our paper the following day. If you can stay back, during the Civil War, we had, that was the time night editor was created. One or two people would sleep in the office. Oyebola lacked professionalism, lacked practical experience, and he must admit it. So with me and him, as for Tony Momo, I documented all the correspondences. His letter was the last I received as I was leaving office finally in 1989. And I went back to give him a reply. And I told you that in the spirit of the Baba just said, who created us as a family in daytime? Tony Momo and I, we are back as one family.
But okay, you seem to have forgiven some other people, like Prince Tony Momo. Then you devoted about 2 chapters, I think, to Chief M.K. Abiola. And you also documented heavily your relationship with him. But at the end of the day, you were one of the leading lights of the June 12 struggle. What was responsible for that switch? Principle or forgiveness?
If you read the title, I said, Abiola's large-heartedness.
Yes, a man with a large heart and a man of destiny. So you described him.
Is this, one thing about Chief M.K. Abiola is this. He can disagree with you violently, but once he sees that he was wrong, he's the first to apologize. Let's start with Sketch. I was going to go to Sketch, and Aduile didn't want me to get there. So he forged my signature and said I had written to Awolowo that I'm now going to use the Sketch for UPN. Of course, M.K. Abiola was then MP, and he took it to Obasanjo. Obasanjo decided to cancel the letter of appointment that the military issued to me to go to Sketch. Eventually, the UPN won in Sketch, and I was reinstated. I met M.K. Abiola in the plane, and I refused to greet him. I said, what's wrong with you? It's not my fault. You know the way he talks. He said, if you know the truth, Aduile brought all these things to me, and I can't have any information and not pass it. And he then apologized. I was shocked.
We need to take another short break, and then we'll come back, and you can continue with your relationship with.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still speaking to former Governor of Ogun State, Chief Olusegun Osoba.
Yes, sir. You were talking about your relationship with Chief M.K.
Each time
Abiola.
I disagree with Chief M.K. Abiola, I said he's large-hearted. He's always the one to come and say, oh, please, I'm sorry. If you find that he was wrong, he's always the first to come and say, I'm sorry. The funniest part of it was when I said I wanted to be governor. And he said, no problem. You can't be governor in Ogun State and not reckon with Chief M.K. Abiola. Was bigger than Ogun State, bigger than Nigeria. Obi said, in the continent of Africa, one M.K. Abiola, one Moshood Abiola, one M.K. A man of international stature. But you see, he will come and be the one to say, I'm sorry. That impressed me. We had violent disagreement. The final was some Muslim clerics from Ogun State came to him and said they wanted a Muslim governor after I had gone to take his blessings. So I got the information. It's in the book. So I went to, I said, Basharun, I thought you've endorsed me. This is the information I have. You see, and when MK starts shaking his legs, then you can know that he has a habit of shaking leg when he's either annoyed or is in a tight situation. He'll be shaking his two legs. So I said, no, wait, Chief. You have given 500,000 naira to Dele Ogushiji. I said, my answer to it is that you now give me my own 500,000 naira for naira. If you give 500,000, then give me my own 500,000.
Which was a lot of money then.
To counter your demand. He says, when the Muslim come to me, you want me to say no? I said, okay, yeah. Me too. That was the day he now named me Shamsuddin. And the Muslim community throughout my, all to today still call me Shamsuddin. So immediately he wrote me, he was traveling to London that day, he wrote me a check for, first thing in the morning I presented the check and everything went in. So you see, that's okay. Document, you see, problem with Nigeria is that they don't want to write, they said they will annoy people, they will upset people. Yes, facts are facts. My training, as you know, as a journalist, facts are sacred. They berate people who serve under Abacha. We had a meeting. It was agreed. Abiola, they were eating Abiola dry. Not that he still had lots of money and he was very rich. He was still very rich. But he told me, he said, look, if I continue this way, these people will not leave me alone. I can tell you one former governor collected money that week, lots of money. He came back 2 hours after and said that the armed robber had snatched the money. MK had to oblige with another set of money.
Sir, because we're running out of time, and still on the issue of rancor and tension, let's talk about the Ogun State elections, the last elections. We all witnessed all of the drama that happened there and still continues with accusations and counter-accusations regarding alleged arms stockpiling and what have you. Now, as the elder statesman in Ogun State, what is your role, if any, in dousing this tension between, former Governor Senator Ibikole Amosun and current Governor Dapo Abiodun?
I've told my governor, and I'm saying it publicly, is being too pastoral. They said no paddy
for jungle.
When you get to jungle. In politics, there's no paddy. Amosu, I have told people, you cannot go to court in Yoruba proverb, as your father would have said, if you were alive, and come back and be friends. Because Yoruba people have a way of settling matter. They will apportion part blame to the plaintiff, part to the defendant, and they will just come to consensus. But when you go to court, the law knows no middle way. Somebody must win and somebody must lose. So Yoruba avoid going to court. And they say, you can't go to court. How can we be friends now with Amosu politically? I've been telling those who say they want to break up. I said, what peace? When we were going to vote for him as senator, against all the party who were very bitter, that I insisted that they must vote him, in spite of all his anti-party activities. Why? I said, if he is doing anti-party, we should not now commit the same offense. And we voted for him. He became senator. He went to President Buhari and said he made him. I said, they should just watch. When at the State Assembly election, we cleared the State Assembly in his senatorial district to show that he was not the one who made the first election possible. I thought at that point, having now been given the Senate seat, it should be magnanimous enough to accept that Abiodun. Now we are in court. It's going to cost us almost $500 million. Documentation alone to all the 16 hours of assembly is costing millions to document all the necessary things for the court. Now, why should we now still be desperate? He's taking Dapo Abiodun to court. He's taking all the 16 House of Assembly members to court. So I'm brokering no peace. Those who told me at our elders meeting last week in Abuja, I said, if you want peace, start with Amosu. If Amosu withdraws his case against our people, against our candidates, then that will be the beginning of peace. If we go to the court and end it there, then we are going to, he cannot commit anti-party activities and get away with it. I am for him to be expelled. He should be expelled. In discipline, under Awolowo that I was trained, won't be tolerated.
But somebody watching this interview may say this is a nice illustration of politics with bitterness.
It's not bitterness. It's politics of discipline. You cannot be an APC senator and still be funding APM against APC. You cannot be APC governor and stone your president. Is the height of indiscipline.
You're referring to the APC rally in Ogun State.
Suppose a stone had landed on the President Buhari's head, and God forbid, he collapses and dies. It's a risk.
But what are your thoughts, sir? Because what happened in Ogun State played out in other states, and APC at the national level is undergoing a crisis. What are your thoughts on discipline within the party and the party's future, the future of this coalition?
Look, any party that cannot discipline its members will fail. Let us start. When we were in SDP and NRC, at that time, the ideological divide was very clear. The SDP were progressive, NRC were the conservative. Nobody defected, neither from NRC to SDP or SDP to... Look, Kofu Akerele became senator with only 3 votes. At the primary, Wahab Dusumu, Taurikoka and Co. boycotted. Kofu Akerele insisted that okay, me and my PA, 1 or 2 queue behind her. And Babaki Gibe upheld the election and said there is no provision for boycott in our constitution. And Wahab Dusumu and all others didn't leave the party. Let us start some reasonable discipline. The idea that this governor become thin God is what is destroying parties. And that's why we are suffering in many states. And let us always have the red primary where all members will participate. No court can query that.
Let's talk about Ruga settlements, something that has become very controversial in Nigeria at the moment, with the president only a few days ago taking the decision to suspend the initiative. What's your take? Is it a good idea to have cattle ranches, cattle colonies in different parts of Nigeria to accommodate the interests of cattle herders?
One thing that I still can't understand is that, take for example in Kenya, they are one of the highest producers of beef, best beef in Africa. I don't go to Kenya and see cattle all over the place. How are they feeding their cattle? In any case, my take is this. The Constitution has vested land in the governors. Land use decree, which is now was embodied in the Constitution by Obasanjo, vest control of land in the governor. The federal government is only in control of the Federal Capital Territory. I don't see how that kind of policy can be implemented. As far as I'm concerned, it's left to the governor to decide.
Correct. But earlier on, Tundun raised the question about true federalism and restructuring. And you said that is part of the agenda of the APC. Do you see President Buhari really restructuring Nigeria, or taking decisions to say, let's have true federalism?
My quarrel with some of our elders is that we make too much propaganda and less of action. We are in a constitutional government. We are not in a military government. No president can, by a stroke of a pen, change the system. Buhari hasn't got the power. Therefore, it is the National Assembly that is most vital. We are asking for referendum only National Assembly can pass an act to create a referendum, and that is ceding part of their power. It is only National Assembly that can review the Constitution. Where it's reviewed, 2/3 of the state must back it, and it automatically becomes a new section in the Constitution. The shock to me is that our fathers who are in the forefront of the agitation went too late to go and meet the National Assembly last year, early last year. Let them come out and say what they discovered. The 8th Assembly did a lot of fundamental review of the Constitution. Many of it were passed by the state assemblies. Why is it that they always think one way? And once you suggest alternative, you are tagged as turncoat. Whether we like it or not, the National Assembly must be involved. With all the noise they are making, how many House of Assembly, House of Rep, House of Senator did they influence? As far as I'm concerned, I will continue to insist in our caucus that the El-Rufai report be formally presented to the Senate and the House of Rep for debate and for implementation. And we, who are in the forefront of this agitation, should go and lobby the National Assembly. There's no other way to it. Now, they're shouting now, they were with Jonathan. Jonathan set up the Constitutional Conference. The report was ready. Even after he lost the election in February, he had almost 3-4 months. Did he pick any aspect of that report? This is why I quarrel with them. When I tell them that, look, in Ireland, Sinn Féin was there. The Unionists, they were there. They were contesting election to the parliament. They didn't kill them. They didn't kill those who were contesting election. There was the military wing, killing and bombing everywhere, and there was the political wing. I have been preaching that we should be proactive. That's one of the things that killed Adeku. We gave Abacha ultimatum and said within, I don't know whether it's 10 days or 2 weeks, if he doesn't return the country to the democracy, heaven will fall. Abacha made a fool of us after our ultimatum expired. And nothing happened.
Well, thank you very much. I hope we could continue this for another 1 hour, because so much, to learn from you. And we thank you very much again for coming to the morning show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Former Governor of Ogun State, Chief Olusegun Osoba,